I can still remember the exact moment and everything went wrong in my life. When I got home from a long day at work on a Tuesday evening, it was dark. The bright blue and red lights were the first thing I saw. There were 2 police cars parked in front of my house, and people could see me from behind my curtains and across the front yard. My guts dropped right away. Before I could even get out of my car, 2 police officers walked up to me with steely looks on their faces and their hands on their belts. "Sir, please get out of the car and put your hands where we can see them." There was no room for question in their tone. I quickly went over everything I could have done wrong in my mind. A ticket for speeding? Forgotten some paperwork? I couldn't think of anything. "Police, what's going on here?" I asked in a quiet voice, even though my heart was pounding hard against my ribs. "We were told that there was domestic violence at this home." One cop told them straight out, "Please get out of the car now." I felt like I was hit hard by the words. Violence in the home? I had only lived with my wife for 3 years, and we had never gotten into a fight. There must be a mistake here. The next thing that happened is like a bad dream that I remember in slow motion. Putting their hands on my car. I felt the cold metal of the handcuffs snapping around my wrists. Being told of my rights in front of everyone in the neighborhood. Being led to the police car while trying to keep what little respect I had left was the worst thing that could have happened. "My wife has to be inside." I begged, "There's been a misunderstanding. Could someone please check on her? This doesn't make sense." The officer's stunned looks should have been my first sign. As we got closer to my front door, it swung open to show my wife. She wasn't hurt or upset, but she was holding up her phone to record the whole thing with a smile on her face. "You got it." It made her laugh like this was the end of the funniest joke in the world. "Look at your face right now." The officer's face went from being confused to being angry as he realized what was going on. This wasn't the first fake call they got, but it might have been the first one set up by wives as a joke. The truth came out after a tense talk inside, away from the neighbor's nosy eyes. My wife made up a story, going so far as to cry and act like she was upset, all for what she called a popular prank video for her social media. The police were not at all amused. They told me how important it was to file false reports, how resources had been taken away from real emergencies, and how this joke could have turned out very differently if I hadn't acted badly when I was suddenly confronted by police. While they were leaving, they made their words to my wife clear. They didn't arrest either of us. This time, she was just getting a warning, but lying was a crime that could have very bad results. There was dead quiet in our house when the door shut behind them. The handcuffs left red marks on my wrist that I could still see. Folks in the neighborhood probably don't trust my professional name at all. And there was my wife, looking at the video on her phone, as if she had no idea what she had just done to me. "That was really cool. The way you look. This is going viral for sure," she said as she changed the filters on her film. I couldn't believe that the woman I married didn't understand how bad what she had done was. I just stared at her. This was more than just crossing the line. Making it fall apart, along with my trust, pride, and sense of safety in my own house. I said in a quiet voice, "You need to delete that video now." My voice was more steady than I felt. "It wasn't a joke what you did. It was mean and against the law." The way she rolled her eyes at me told me everything I needed to know about her goals. No need to be so emotional. It was only a joke. As I went upstairs to take a shower to forget about what happened, one thought became clear. The woman I married and this marriage weren't what I thought they would be. While I let the hot water wash over me, I didn't tell her that this wouldn't stand. I kept it to myself. When I'm angry, I wouldn't try to get payback. In this case, something more planned, fair, and definitely legal was needed. When I went downstairs the morning after the joke, she was casually looking through her phone at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. The video of how I was made to feel bad was already online. A lot of comments came in, with some people shocked and others laughing along. There were some worried voices that asked if this went too far. She had just laughed off those comments with emojis. Good morning. She was proud to say that the film had already been watched over 2,000 times while she didn't even look up from her screen. Not sorry. Nobody saw how bad the damage was. Just metrics and numbers about interaction. I got a coffee and sat down next to her. The woman in front of me seemed strange all of a sudden. We had been married for 3 years and together for 5, but I had never seen such a callous disregard for limits. Or maybe I had just ignored the warning signs and thought that smaller jokes were just light-hearted fun instead of the red flags they were. Today we need to talk about yesterday. My voice stayed flat as I spoke. You lied to the cops when you called them. That's not a joke, it's a crime. She finally looked up and laughed. I wasn't charged with anything. The police knew it was only for fun. Not at all, they warned you. There's a change. I took a big breath. What did that do to you? Having our hands tied in front of our neighbors. Making people think I'm an abuser. There was a mix of boredom and light irritation in the look she gave me that I will never forget. As if I were responding to a small problem instead of the possibility of being shamed in public and getting a criminal record. Now everyone knows it was a joke. In fact, this makes you more interesting to people in the area. I want you to thank me. She went back to her phone, as if the talk were over in her mind. I felt something stir inside me when I was told no. A cold, calculated anger instead of a fiery rage. I told myself I had to take a shower and get ready for work, but I could already see what might happen. This wasn't a mistake made just once. She was giving me a sneak peek into her personality, and I needed to know what I was dealing with. My mind wasn't on work. Co-workers saw that I was distracted, but I said it was because I hadn't slept well the night before. I went to a nearby park during lunch and made 2 calls. The first was to a lawyer friend, who I asked about the possible legal effects of making false police reports in our state. The second one was to a locksmith to change our shared cloud account passwords in secret. What my wife didn't know was that her social media joke had made a perfect record of her lie with a time stamp. In her own film, she admitted that she had lied to the police on purpose. The officer's threats were caught on camera, and it was clear that I didn't agree with any of it. I went to an electronics shop that night and bought a small digital voice recorder. Not because of anything important, just to make sure that any future talks about what happened were written down. I had no plans to get back at them. I was making a defense. When I got home, she was on a video call with her friends, laughing as they talked about the joke, adding to the embarrassing parts to make them seem even worse. I could hear her through the office door as she talked about how sad I looked and the police put on the handcuffs and how I almost begged them. None of it is true, it's all lies meant to boost her social status at my cost. There was silence as I shut the front door again and walked around the neighborhood. 3 different neighbors saw me and quickly crossed the street or went back into their homes. Even though it was a joke, they thought there was a seed of doubt there. People say that where there's smoke, there's fire. I got back to her after her call was over. As if nothing had happened, as if our life together hadn't changed at all, she was making dinner in the kitchen. As I walked in, she said, I think I'm going to make this a series. People really enjoy the romance jokes. My number of followers went up by almost 1,000 in one night. I knew then that this wasn't just about one event. This was about the real person she was, someone who was ready to give up my honor, image, and maybe even my freedom for likes and follows. Someone who thought it was okay to make false charges for fun. What else do you want to do for fun? I asked with a tone of interest while turning on the recorder in my pocket. As she excitedly talked about joke ideas that got more invasive and might even be illegal, I nodded along and asked questions that let her go into more detail. With every word, she gave me exactly what I needed, proof of planning and bad intentions. I had no plans to get back at them. I was making plans for justice, and because she was eager to share hers, she gave me the exact steps I needed to take to make them happen. The next week, I met with a lawyer downtown during a long lunch break. No, not the friend who gave me help over the phone. It was a lawyer who specialized in family law and criminal defense. I needed professional advice from someone who had nothing to do with either of us. The office was simple but well kept. The walls were covered with law books and credentials. The lawyer listened carefully as I explained what happened, taking notes sometimes but mostly keeping eye contact as I talked about the fake police report, the social media posts, and the careless behavior that could hurt my image. When I was done, she told me, "What you're talking about isn't just a relationship problem. In this state, making a fake police report is a crime that can get you up to 6 months in jail and big fines." That she recorded herself saying it and then put it online for everyone to see. She turned her head away. That is not only stupid, it gives the prosecutors a lot of help with their case. I made it clear that I didn't want her to go to jail. I only need to keep myself safe. And maybe I thought about it. You might want to make sure she knows how bad what she did was. The lawyer leaned forward. What exactly do you want to do with this? Before answering, I gave it some thought. 3 things. To begin, I want the movie and all references to it to be taken down from all social media sites. Second, I want her to know that what she does has real effects, not just problems in relationships. Third, I stopped because what I was thinking about was finally becoming real to me. With my good name still intact, I want to end this marriage. She understood what was being said and nodded. Going forward, I suggest writing down everything. Every time she talks about what happened, posts something on social media, or talks to a neighbor or friend about it, this comes up. Write down dates and times in a notebook. Send me copies of the movies she put up. Also, don't let her know you're talking to me. We agreed on a fee, and I left with a strange sense of calm. Not to get back at someone, but to do what was right and protect oneself. At home, I set up a private email account that could only be accessed from my work computer and started sending proof. There were screenshots of her social media posts, screen recordings of the videos, transcripts of conversations I had recorded, comments from her followers encouraging more pranks, and her enthusiastic replies promising things would get worse. What amazed me most was how quickly she had moved on, as if nothing had happened, while I was left to deal with the consequences. The checker, who was a neighbor's college-age son, didn't look at me when I picked up my groceries. I no longer got a wave back from the runner across the street when I waved in the morning. There were small but important changes. At the same time, she was enjoying the new attention she was getting on social media. 3 days after posting the video of her arrest, she live-streamed herself taking my car without my permission, saying it was stolen, and making a police report. She almost sent the report, but she stopped herself when she found the car in our driveway. People in the crowd loved it and asked for more tricks that were almost legal. That night, I told her, "You're going to get us both into a lot of trouble." I made sure my recorder was on. She laughed and said, "Calm down, I'm not really filing the reports, I'm just showing how far I could go. Also, even if I called the cops, they wouldn't do anything. Since they know me, they'd just laugh and go along with it. When the police came to our house, they told you very clearly not to make fake reports. They were just acting up." She shook her head no. A funny trick video is loved by all. My mom called to tell me she thought it was funny. I reminded myself to call my mother-in-law. If she wanted people to act in this way, she needed to know what it meant. I couldn't sleep that night. The woman next to me had become unpredictable. She saw destroying my image as just another attack in her quest for fame on the internet. I became very aware of the fact that I no longer felt safe in my own home. Not physically in danger, but emotionally open to attack. What kind of joke would she pull next? What would she go over? When I woke up, would there be more cops at our door? Or would Child Protective Services be there because of another false claim? For the first time in 2 years, I called in sick to work the next morning. I carefully went through our home office after she left for work and scanned important papers and financial records. I moved the part of our joint savings that was mine to a new account just for me. Not hiding money, just keeping what was clearly mine. Then I started talking to friends and family who had said nice things about her videos without getting into a fight. But only with easy questions. Did you know that giving false information to the cops is against the law? Are you worried about pushing actions that could lead to criminal charges? I didn't accuse them, instead, I kept a curious tone. I also sent photos of these conversations to my lawyer. By afternoon, a number of comments had been taken down. A friend we both have called to worry about the vids and my health. She said, "We thought you were in on it. We didn't think about the fact that you were handcuffed without being told. That's not okay." As more people learned to tell the difference between a light-hearted joke and behavior that could be illegal, things started to change. And as people began to question what she did, they became part of my case without meaning to be. I'm safe from whatever might happen next. I started the next part of my plan 2 weeks after the event. I carefully put our most important financial records and personal papers in different piles while she was at a weekend brunch with friends, which I had actually suggested we do. Nothing was stolen or hidden, everything was just put away in clear mine and hers sections and photographed for my records. I opened a new bank account at a different institution the night before and sent my most recent paycheck there instead of to our joint account. Again, there is nothing fishy or mean about this, it's just sensible steps to become financially independent. It was important for what came next. That afternoon, I called a bunch of people on a list, starting with her parents. Our relationship had always been good, and I wanted to keep it that way no matter what. Some of the decisions she's been making lately worry me. I carefully explained to her father, who was a former judge and knew more than most about the legal consequences. Have you seen what she's been doing on social media lately? His silence told me everything I needed to know. He had seen them and wasn't impressed. He finally told her, "Son, I raised her better than this. The subject has been brought up by her mother and me. This week, we were going to call you." That conversation led to my first important ally, someone whose view she valued and who knew all too well what could happen when people lie to the police. At the end of the call, he promised to talk to her directly about how bad what she did was. Not putting her down, but being genuinely worried about where this could lead. The next people I called were our best friends from childhood who we'd known for years. Not to make them dislike her, but to make sure they saw things my way. One by one, I told them what happened without making things up or playing on their emotions. I just told them the facts. The fake police report, the shame in public, and the careless attitude toward behavior that might be illegal. One friend said, "We saw the videos, but we thought it was staged. Like those pairs that plan pranks together just to have fun. You say you didn't know it was going to happen." None, I made sure. The first time I knew was when police cops with guns drawn came up to my car. The stunned quiet that followed let me know that they were finally getting what had happened. By the end of the day, several friends had sent her direct messages of worry instead of the happy comments she was used to hearing. She was in a very different mood when she got home that night. She was no longer excited about how many new followers she had gained. She skipped around the house, annoyed, and checked her phone a lot but didn't do anything on it like she usually does. She finally told me, "My dad called me today, as we were making dinner. He looked like he was mad about something. Did you talk to him?" I thought about what I would say and kept my voice neutral. "He called me early in the morning to ask about some posts he had seen. I believed it would be better for him to hear what you had to say." "What did you really say to him?" It was clear that her voice had an edge to it. "The truth. That you made up a police report as a joke, filmed my arrest, and put it online." I looked them straight in the eyes and wouldn't let them make me feel bad for being honest. It wasn't a lie, it was just a joke. Everyone else gets that except you. She stabbed veggies with too much force. Someone is now asking me if I'm okay and if I need to talk to someone. Because of what you said to them, they think I'm having a mental breakdown. I just told them what took place. She snapped, "You're trying to make me look crazy. Because you can't take a joke, my family and friends turned against me." I took a deep breath in. It is against the law to file a fake police report. You still don't seem to see that, which is strange. Okay, fine. She took her plate and slammed the door behind her as she went to eat in her bedroom. The next day, I saw that she had been much less active on social media. Her latest prank video had been quietly saved and was no longer shown on her page. Small wins that matter a lot. In the afternoon of that day, her father called me again. He told her, "We talked to her last night," and his voice was heavy with sadness. "She won't see reason in this and keeps saying it was just content and that you're being too sensitive." His mother tried to tell him how this could affect both of your lives, but he just sighed deeply. "I love my daughter, but I can't agree with the decisions she's making. What are you going to do next?" I was dreading answering this question, but his worry made me feel like I could be honest. "I'll admit it, I've talked to a lawyer. Not to press charges, but to learn what my choices are and keep myself safe going forward." There was a long pause before he spoke again. "That seems smart. This isn't the girl I raised, and things happen for a reason. I understand what you need to do." That talk with her and the blessing from her own father were the last pieces of evidence I needed. The scene was set, the proof was gathered, and a support system was set up. The next part of my plan was now due. I was in the district attorney's office a month after the first event. There was a thick folder of evidence on the desk between us. The DA, a straight-talking woman in her 50s, carefully looked over the evidence, which included screenshots, video records, audio transcripts, and statements from people who saw what happened. She closed the folder and said, "This is amazingly thorough. Most times when someone reports something fake, there isn't this much proof. One person's word is usually put up against another's." She put online a recording of herself admitting that she had filed a fake report. I answered. I didn't have to look into it very much. The DA tapped the folder with his finger and nodded. "What do you want to happen here?" "The worst charges could lead to 6 months in jail, big fines, and a lasting record." I leaned forward and carefully chose what to say. "I don't want her to go to jail. If it is possible, I don't even want her to have a record that will last forever. What I want her to know is that what she does has real effects, not just likes and comments." The DA said, "You're more generous than most spouses I see in this office." I told them that this wasn't about getting even. It has to do with schooling and fairness. She really doesn't seem to know that what she did was not only wrong, but also illegal. The justice system might be able to wake people up like my friends, family, and I haven't been able to. We agreed on a way to move forward after more talk. In order to start an official probe, the DA would talk to my wife about what happened. They might give a diversion program instead of full charges, which includes community service, legal education classes, and probation. If she followed the rules, her record would stay clean. I felt a weird mix of feelings when I left the meeting. I felt relieved that something was being done, guilty about what might happen to someone I used to love, and excited to finally solve a problem that had been bothering me for a month. After 3 days, the formal notice showed up at our house. A formal letter asking her to come in to be questioned about claims that she filed a fake police report. I was in the kitchen when she opened it, and I saw her face lose all of its color. "What is this?" she asked while waving the letter. "Did you do it?" I didn't raise my voice. "Actually, I did talk to the DA about what happened." "Are you really trying to get me arrested?" "Just for fun." With each word, her voice got higher. "What's wrong with you? It wasn't a game. It was illegal." I said the same thing I'd said many times before, and I asked them directly not to go after arrest. I gave you options that would help you understand how important it was without getting you in trouble with the law. You weren't allowed to. She was now yelling and her eyes were getting teary. I realized they weren't sorry, they were angry and afraid of what would happen. This might end my life. You could have ruined my life with the arrest you set up. I reminded her in a calm way. Just telling the truth to the right people is all I've done. The results are due to what you did, not what I did. It was a fight when she went upstairs, and I heard drawers banging as she probably packed a bag. She didn't say anything else for an hour after that. Through friends we both had, I found out she had gone to stay with her parents, which was funny since her dad supported my cause. It's been 2 days since we last talked. The father of the girl called me on the third day. He said it straight away, she's meeting with the DA tomorrow. Her mother and I were able to get her to fully cooperate. I've also set up for her to talk to a defense lawyer, an old coworker who won't sugarcoat things. To be honest, I said, thank you. I'm sorry this happened. It was a firm no. You're in a bad spot because of her. This is not our daughter who did this. She's changed in some way. That need to be famous on the internet and break rules to get attention isn't good, and she needs to stop before she hurts herself or you. The next week, I got an email from the DA's office letting me know that my wife had gone to her interview and been officially charged with making a false police report. As we talked about, they offered a diversion program, 100 hours of community service, lessons on legal ethics that had to be taken, and probation for 6 months. If she did everything right, the charges would be dropped and there would be no record of it. She said yes to the offer. That night, her number showed up on my phone for the first time in over a week when it rang. I answered, not sure what would happen next. She said in a quiet voice, I met with the DA. They showed me the proof. Everything. The videos, the recordings of me planning more jokes, and the comments from the officer. I heard a shaky breath when she stopped. I didn't know that. I never thought about what it would look like from your point of view or from a legal point of view. The sound was the most like an apology I had heard, but I knew it wasn't one. Not for what she did to me, but because she was going to get in trouble. What's going on now? I knew the answer to that question before I asked it. I'm living with my parents until I finish my community service. Dad thinks we should have some space. One more stop. He also told me to talk to a lawyer about my divorce choices. I said in a low voice, I think that's smart. I have already talked to one. The long quiet between us was heavy with the pain of a relationship that could not be fixed because of what she did a month earlier, not because of what I did at the DA's office. She finally said, I never meant for it to get this far. The point was to make it funny. I understand. When I answered, I realized I did believe her. She didn't mean to take away our marriage or put us at risk of being charged with a crime. She just hadn't thought about what would happen if she did what she did. The court system was now fixing her mistake in ways I could never do. I sat across from my lawyer in her office, going over the final divorce settlement, 6 months after that terrible night when police officers handcuffed me in my own driveway. The terms were surprisingly good for me because there was proof of what my wife did and the legal effects of those actions. My lawyer slid the papers across her desk and said, all you have to do is sign here. We'll file with the court once she signs back. Because of the situation, I don't think there will be any delays in processing. I looked at the signing line with my pen just above it. I didn't think my marriage would end this way. Even with everything, the place where love used to be was still empty. My lawyer said in a soft voice, you did everything right. He could tell I was unsure. You didn't want to get even, you wanted justice through the right routes. The penalties she faced were fair and meant to help her change, not punish her. With a few lines of ink, I signed my name and agreed, ending our 3-year marriage. In the time since the DA got involved, my wife had finished her community service at a nearby center for victims of domestic abuse. It was a funny task that fit the nature of her false report. From what her father, who kept in touch with me throughout the process, told me, the experience had really changed her. During one of our rare lunches, he told me that she works with people who have really been hurt. She has a different view of what she did after hearing their stories and seeing how domestic abuse really affects people. The divorce process itself was easy to understand. Her lawyer didn't try to change how the assets were split or the rules for our shared property. There were no kids to think about or complicated financial problems to solve. Simple, clean, and done. That afternoon, as I left my lawyer's office, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Not only the stress of going through the legal process, but also the mental toll of having to live with betrayal and its effects. My past wasn't getting in the way of my future for the first time in 6 months. That night, I went back to my home, which was now just mine. The house had changed over the past few months as I slowly took back the room. There is new furniture in the living room, a totally redesigned home office, and new paint all over. I went through changes in my body that matched the changes in my life. My phone rang, and it was a text message from my ex-father-in-law. The paper was signed by her. I believed you should know. Son, take care of yourself. The part about the son made me smile. In spite of everything, he had become a mentor to me during this experience, giving me advice and a different point of view when I needed it the most. We would still have our occasional lunches even after the divorce was finalized, which was a pleasant surprise after what had been a painful phase. I thought about everything that had happened as I sat down on my couch with a glass of wine. The fake police report. The shame in public. The careful gathering of proof. The review by the DA. The process of getting divorced. Each step was taken not out of anger or revenge, but with a clear goal in mind and in line with the law. When my phone rang again, it was a message from a business networking site. A job opening in a different state that was a great fit for my skills. I changed my profile months ago because I was interested in other job opportunities and leaving this town, where people still look at me funny even though everyone knows the truth. It felt like the right time. A new start at work to go along with the new start I had made in my personal life. After 3 weeks, I took the job and started making plans to move. In today's market, the house sold very quickly for a lot more than what was asked. It felt like the world was balancing scales that had been tipped against me with another piece of good luck. I had lunch with my ex-father-in-law one last time on my last weekend in town. In between meals, he told me, "She asked about you. I asked if it would be okay to meet before you leave." I thought about it for a moment before shaking my head. Some parts of the story need to end. Please let her know that I truly wish her the best. He understood and nodded. It was illegal for her to do what she did, but it has changed her. The volunteer work, the classes on legal issues, and the therapy she started later. She's not the same person who thought making up a police report would be funny. I said, "I'm glad to hear that," and it turned out that I really was. I never wanted to hurt or destroy anyone, only wanted justice and growth. That's why I took what I knew and went to the DA instead of social media. The purpose of the law system is to both punish and help people get better. We shook hands firmly and said goodbye with real goodwill. Another chapter came to a respectful end without any drama. As I drove out of my old town the next morning, with the sky painted by sunrise, I didn't feel bad about how I'd handled things. I hadn't tried to get back at her in the same sneaky way she had used against me. I hadn't put myself down in public or tried to hurt people's feelings. I had only told the truth to the right people and let the justice system work as it was supposed to. I learned that the best revenge wasn't really revenge at all. It was fair and just justice. Ultimately, justice that kept my name safe, fixed the problem, and gave everyone a chance to grow as a person. When someone hurts you, sometimes the best way to respond is not to meet the offense but to go beyond it. Not just by forgiving them, but also by sticking to the right steps, telling the truth, and keeping your own ethics even when others have lost it. My new life was waiting for me, free of anger and made stronger by hardship, based on the knowledge that I had dealt with wrongdoing with fairness instead of anger. I felt at peace when I knew that.